Hello, my name is Kathy Jameson, the Proposition Lady, and today I'm going to talk about a few issues that almost made it onto the November 2024 ballot, but didn't. Thanks to a law passed in 2014, giving Governor Newsom and the California legislature more time to negotiate issues before they hit the ballot, the number of propositions fell from 14 to 9, practically overnight. The 5 propositions removed from the ballot at the end of June represent the most removed in any election to date. That's good news. Let's start with the Pandemic Early Detection Initiative. Sponsors of this measure proposed a tax on income over $5 million to fund pandemic prevention and preparedness. Instead, the governor agreed to broaden the scope of the existing Health and Human Services Agency to address pandemic preparedness. That's one down. Voila. Next up is the initiative to repeal a law known as PAGA. PAGA allows employees to collect monetary penalties from their employers without intervention from the state. Business leaders who want to reduce financial penalties created the proposition to repeal PAGA. Instead, lawmakers enacted a compromise that reduces employer penalties and provides more of an opportunity to correct workplace violations. The third measure removed from the ballot would have required high school students to pass a personal finance course in order to graduate. Instead, lawmakers approved a bill that requires financial literacy. This brings California in line with other states who have done the same, and we didn't even have to vote on it. Next up is a measure you may not have heard of. It was on and off the ballot so fast, I never had time to release an episode about it. Sponsors of this measure sought to provide more assistance to families struggling with the illness of a child. Thankfully, lawmakers stepped in to provide more funding to the California Children's Services Program and children's hospitals. That's 4 down. The fifth measure we won't have to vote on was a challenge to the law that established a $20 minimum wage for fast food workers. Instead of bringing this issue to voters, legislators agreed to create a council within the Department of Industrial Regulations to set wages and labor standards within the fast food industry. In addition to the 5 propositions that lawmakers removed, 2 more went missing by other means. The Taxpayer Protection Act was withdrawn by the California Supreme Court. Sponsors of the TPA wanted to make it more difficult to raise taxes, but their measure would have completely removed the ability of the legislature to raise taxes without voter approval. The state argued that this represents such a fundamental change to the Constitution, it could not be enacted by simple ballot measure. The court agreed, so we don't have to vote on it yet. Sponsors of the TPA are already working on a version for 2026. Last but not least, the oil and gas industry qualified a ballot measure that would have blocked a 2022 law, forcing oil and gas wells to adopt safety and environmental standards for people living nearby. They spent $20 million to get it on the ballot, but didn't want to throw good money after bad if it didn't appear voters would take their side. So they pulled the measure and decided to mount a legal strategy instead. Now that they've pulled their proposition, the law can finally go into effect, 2 years after it was passed. And just like that, we're down to 9 propositions. But if you're tempted to send Governor Newsom a thank you note, I'd hold off on that for a minute, because he and the legislature are trying to put a few more last-minute propositions in front of voters. We could see 4 or 5 more by next week. Exciting times. I can't wait to see what happens. One way or the other, the ballot will be finalized any day now, and proposition numbers will be assigned soon. I'm Kathy Jameson, the Proposition Lady, and it's hot as hell out here. Stay cool, California voters. Bye now.